Hello, and welcome to the Handicapable Black Woman Throne Room. My view of humanity is a whole new tea. Okay, well, I'm going to be having some odd or unique or different. I'm kind of testing the waters with how I do my channel because, yeah, my channel is as messy as my life. And especially as I write my books, I'm finding my voice, I'm finding my space because I'm talking about politics, dating and everything, but how I do it and how random and how mixed because usually I try to jumble around one subject. I hop on and off the expressway, but sometimes I circle right around. But yeah, if you're new, I am the handicapable Black woman. I talk politics and dating and true stories, real stories about my situation as someone who is Black, someone with a disability, and a woman. And I talk about employment, starting a business, and current news, basically whatever I feel like, really. But politics and dating life is really a big thing, especially when I was undiagnosed, refused to be diagnosed for decades. And so part of my traumatic dating life is because of my undiagnosis and the heartbreak of realizing that I didn't have to settle and I should not have gone through the dating experience that I had to suffer through. But yeah, so we're going to start this episode. I take 20 to 30 minutes, so grab a snack if you're cleaning up around the house or being late, like, hey, if you're being lazy, enjoy being lazy. Being lazy should be added to every to do list because relaxing, yeah, especially with the politics of today, we need to do more of it. We really do. And they also need to raise the minimum wage. But okay, let's get started. Because, yeah, I've been thinking a lot about the education of our country and the education of, because there's so many different types of education, but because learning how to read and write and math and science and STEM, all that great stuff, but especially when it comes to empathy and emotional intelligence, we're lacking. And I feel like on purpose, Republicans wanted to take DEI out of school because that encompasses some of the emotional education and learning more about yourself. Because, yeah, we teach you to be unique and be yourself and everything. But what about people who are not like yourself? How to accept, how to behave, how to treat them with respect, even if you don't agree with their views. And so I think that's important, but they are so determined with taking that out. And even with PBS, closing down shop so that they can put Purdue University. Yeah. See, they want us to be morons. They want us to be bigots. Because, in my opinion, Purdue University just teaches bigotry, hatefulness, judgmental, awful, terrible views, and corrupt ways of teaching history. That's not history. That is what that Conway woman used to say. Like, basically, it's full of lies. It's full of lies. But I don't know. Sometimes when I think about political lies, I think of her when she was on TV. And anyway, yeah, I'm glad I haven't had to see her much at all. But when it comes to education, everything like that, I don't know. It's just frustrating with how even during slavery with the enslaved Africans or African Americans, they were so determined with keeping them uneducated because they knew of the threat and the power. And I think that's one reason why now it's like when the orange guy said he loves the poorly educated, he kept saying he loves the poorly educated, but His cult loves him so much they didn't understand that. Some of them, especially debating during COVID with streams or whatever, he said they were talking about us, me, Democrats, liberals, progressives. He said that. He was like, no, he's calling you dumb. And I'm like, why would he love the people that won't vote for him? The ones who won't follow him, the ones who won't fall for his lies, the deceptions, and all of the like not truths and everything like that. Why do you think he would like no, no, baby, he talking about you? And that's when they would start putting me down, calling me names, because they're like, I'm not dumb, he's not talking about me, he loves us, he appreciates that. No, he does love you. He loves that you're so ignorant and uneducated that you don't realize that he is talking about you. That's what he loves about you. And so now we're about to have Purdue University on PB. So I'm just at a point where I, everybody don't turn on PBS. Everyone turn it off. It's like I'm gonna do another episode all about maybe other channels and other programs, because also we have to remember, like, they're trying to spread it around everywhere. That Cameron guy, or he was on that 80s show. I'm trying to remember the not the facts of life. Dang, it's like yeah, my mind is everywhere right now. But he played like the older brother, and they have same show, the one guy from Titanic or whatever, who will only date women that are like 25 years old and below and everything like that. Yeah, it's really funny how both of them were on the same show, but when you kind of look at their lives, like it was just like, oh, interesting. But and yeah, that's every show and everything, but it's just kind of funny with how their differences collide and everything. But he is like the Cameron guy, or yeah, he is gonna have his own children's show. So yeah, we need to make sure we don't watch that and it gets low numbers as well. But if you are Republican and MAGA, congratulations, you have another option. So you might want to hunt that down. On purpose, I don't know the name of it. On purpose, I didn't look him up because I want to make sure I had as little information as possible, because I don't want to help. Because if I say that information, I'm helping him, and I don't want to help him. No, I do not have a good opinion of him whatsoever. But then also we have to look at what they're doing with museums. I'm going to mention this in quite a few episodes, because sometimes, especially with listening skills, it takes about 7 times for things to register in people's brains. So yeah, it's there's going to be quite a few episodes where you might feel like, oh, she said that in the last episode. Yeah, that's for sometimes you might have missed it in one episode, and then 2 or 3 episodes later, because we multitask, we do different things. Sometimes we're listening and talking to other people while on YouTube and things like that. And I understand that. So yeah, this is why I give you another opportunity, because okay, now we have to know and remember about the museums, and that they're trying to misconfigure the history that is told in the museums. They're trying to change the story and the plot in the museums. History is a story. History is not the nonfiction that you should not have the power to change. But now we have a so called leader trying to change it, because he wants to be allowed to change history. Because if you don't know history, that allows you to repeat it, because then you don't know the hardships, the torture, the terrible, and the mistakes that happen from the first time, because you don't know, because you weren't taught it, because in some cases they refuse to teach it. And that's one reason why now we well we have a situationship in a state where they're trying to start that whites only town. And you can tell that there are many people that are uneducated, and so uneducated that so many of the the pale male population, the pale population, the European Americans, or basically the white people, they were starting to say, see, black people, you can start your own. We'll be so proud. We'll be so happy if you start one. You guys need to start one. See, it's like you can, some even try to hint that we were lazy and all this other stuff. But then, yeah, I still will never forget how during COVID, I was on Facebook and there were some topics about education, and I posted one saying how we need to learn more African American history and the difference between what African American knows and what the white people know. And there was this white girl from my high school who I now blocked because she's a waste of time and an awful in my opinion. This is all in my opinion, but she's a terrible, awful, judgmental, idiotic, stupid human being because she had the nerve to come into my profile and read that post and tell me, are you trying to tell me, do you have the nerve to tell me that you know more about African American history than I do? But this situation shift that's going on right now is proving that I am right. Because do you know how many white people were trying to say that black people need to try to start and have their own town, that it has not been done in history, that they would be so proud? Do you know about the drowned cities? And I've said, like, even before this happened, over a year ago, I've talked about this, and I even posted the articles and the list of the drowned cities. There's over 15. And in some articles there's 10, in some articles there's all the 15, and there's more. But those are the historic ones. Those are the ones that are for sure. Those are the ones that there's debris from the African towns that are at the bottom of many of those lakes. The ones where the uh, anthropologists have dug around and, put some of the materials in museums. They better not try to hide that from the museums, because we still now have people that are so ignorant, poorly educated, and naive. One or all of the above, some of them, whatever, because they don't know that part of our history. They don't know that part of our history. They don't know about sundown towns. A lot of people don't know about sundown towns, but they don't know about the Green Book. They don't know about a lot of the hardships, and even throughout history. And there was a time, I believe it was it started in the 60s up until the early 80s in some cities or states, where when a black woman went in for a procedure, if they had to have surgery, they would literally take her right away to have a child without her knowing. Without her knowing. They don't talk about it in the classroom. They don't discuss that in the classroom. And especially with slavery, there are so many things that they do not discuss that they should have discussed. And again, I will never forget when this girl from my high school had the nerve to come up and try it. And so I remember listing different things, and she was just like, oh, well, I've heard of that. I know that. I know. I was like, okay, tell me what you know. And she was like, oh, well, I only know of it. I don't really know what it is. And there was one where she Googled it, because then I highlighted it, put it in Google, and it took me right to the source word for word. And so then when I pointed out that she just copied and pasted, she was like, well, you didn't give me enough time and you're asking a lot of questions. And it's like, if I only know of it, and I'm like, so, okay, you're telling me you know it, but then when I ask you to give information on it, and you're not capable of doing it. But then also remember, I've already told you guys about how Mr. No Heart, he would brag that he never had to learn African American history. And that his mother is the one who, she was proud to tell me, the only reason you got into college is because you're black. And whenever I got any of my positions and or accomplished anything, she said, you're only able to do that because you're black. But then I look at her basic white sons. Yeah, and I call them basic because, like, your son, my ex, drops out of college, and then, yeah, with a lot of the employment. I don't know. It's just a lot of things that kept happening in his life. His mom always gave an excuse, always gave him an excuse or a pardon. Like, and when all of her kids got arrested, and she told me why each one got arrested, and she was smiling and bragging and laughing. But then she said it was my turn to tell her about my sisters and I. And I said that we've never been arrested. She got so mad. And then when I told her about the time that police did pull me over and either call me the N word or follow me all the way home and interrogate me or fondle me, and or when I would talk about African American history, because when she would tell me that I needed to follow Candace Owens, I should listen to her, I should agree with her and take her stance. Yeah, Candace Owens, you want followers, you want the Black community, but look at, like, when your demographic are as racist and awful and bigoted as my ex's family, and that's in my opinion, of course. I mean, because they're going to say they're not. And my ex's mom, I dated a Black man. Dating someone doesn't mean that you're not racist. And like I did an episode about the Middle Eastern and Indian, like how they treated me. Dating me doesn't mean you're not racist. When you only want to date me because you say I'm not worth marrying, but you want to sleep with me, when the only reason you want to date me is so that you can hopefully, like, get your horniness out. Yeah, that's kind of racist. When you only see me as an object, you only see me as a tool for your quote unquote needs, when you don't think I'm worthy as of anything else. Or even when I say I'm going to start my own business, and a lot of them would tell me, oh, well, you guys don't do that. That's not, like, as a Black woman, you don't do that. And yeah, I'm going to talk about that. It's like, I talk about that a little bit in the episodes I already recorded, but not to the detail that I want to. But education is key. And the education of Black people, especially Black women, we need more of that out there, because that's one reason why so many people hate us. They hate us because they're misguided, because they're uneducated, and also because they allowed to digest racism and bigotry so much because they were taught. It's like, because a lot of people don't know the creation of white. They don't know the racism that leaks within the white. And they also don't know the history of how whites were even created, because that's one reason why everyone has a little African in them. But then over the centuries, when people started moving north and away from the equator and things like that, that's when they started getting lighter. And but yeah, that's a whole one of my minors is in anthropology. I love the subject. I wish it was my major, but it wasn't. But oh well. But it's just, if you don't know your history, if you don't know things that are outside of yourself, your being, if your knowledge is so close-minded that you only know things that are directly connected to yourself, it's like, I never want to live in a country like that. I never want an education system like that. But now we have so many school systems or states that want the 10 Commandments on the walls of every classroom. But, and oddly enough, a lot of those same schools are at the bottom of the education system within the states. And a lot of the leaders keep ending up in situations that if you looked it up on the 10 Commandments, it would be on the list. Yeah, oops. And I'm not saying that you can't use the Bible as an educational resource, but at the same time, that's supposed to be for church mainly. hmm And I feel, I still remember there was one comedian who said there was one book group that they never fully understand the book because they have to go so regularly. And even years and decades later, they are still studying that book, but they still don't comprehend, and they still, like, basically they're talking about the Bible. And it's like I wish I remembered it because it was funny the way they said it. Like, I'm too busy, I'm trying to put all the pieces of it together or whatever. But I just think it's amazing and amusing with how the and yes, I sound judgmental, but it's because I'm pissed off and like I'm bothered by how hateful, awful, and demeaning, and how determined the other side is trying to repeat history, and they're entertained by the mistreatment of others. And some of them, it's like, I'm gonna do a video soon about how much they hate us. They love the hate. And part of me just wonders about their education, about, did the Bible teach them to hate? Or did their parents? Did the school? Who taught them to hate? Because I keep noticing a lot of the bullies are on that side, but then they call us bullies when, yeah, it's like we used to try that whole Mrs. Obama thing. When they go low, you stay high. Nah, I mean, some of us are so upset. Like, yeah, there's some that's probably gonna get high, but no, but we're tired. It's like when you're literally getting verbally and sometimes physically harmed, and then when you're getting all of these messages telling you that you shouldn't be living because you're a Democrat, liberal, progressive, and or you should be punished, or yeah, dot dot dot, so many other things. But I just wonder where in the education, or where, how did this happen? How did so many fall into this education of hate? Because that's kind of how I feel. Like, so many of them, they enjoy the hate so much that they want to learn more, like how to be more hateful. 104. And like some of them might have even escalated to the master's level of hate and mistreatment. And some of them, they're in, maybe it's fear too, because some of them are scared of accepting people who are different from themselves so much. Um, I don't know. It's so many thoughts, so many opinions, but I think a lot of it lies in fear. A lot of it is uh, either people are scared to be educated because then they're going to be proven wrong, and or that would, and I guess I'll come to a close because I don't know. My mind is going everywhere with the why. It's like, why do they enjoy to hate or exclude or be racist and bigoted? Why do they love being bullies? Why do they hate judging people that are different from themselves, and or misguiding or creating a new version of history in order for them or their ancestors to be the heroes instead of the villains? And or why would they change history in order to allow the people who were the victims or the victims' ancestors not seem as seriously harmed? because especially with reparations, they say it's divisive. That it's like if we do reparations like by the color of your skin, that's divisive. When actually, it was divisive decades ago, because when the freed slaves were supposed to get the money, we had a president who was assassinated, and the new president was like, nah, I'm going to give the money to the white people. I'm going to give them the land and the mule and the money. Yeah, and that's how we have a lot of the old money, a lot of that old money, a lot of those millionaires now is because of the slave money that was supposed to go to reparations. And then the towns that were burned and messed up, yeah, a lot of those towns were floored. They were just doing so well and abound and just amazing, marvelous. But then they want to burn it down each and every time. But now they're telling us, oh, build your towns. Now they're telling us to do so many things that if they had read their history, if they were a little smart, a little bright, a little educated. See, because we are surrounded by poorly educated right now. They don't know the history. They're ignorant, or they love not knowing. Because my ex, Mr. No Heart, loved not knowing. Soon I will have the episode of why I broke up with Mr. No Heart, with the whole election of the Orange Man. Because now I want to know, what does he think? Because he would laugh about when I say this man is dangerous. I saw this years ago. I saw before, like, I mean, I know a lot of people, they saw some things, but I warned him. I warned him. He laughed. He laughed me off and told me I didn't. He was like, yeah, you know what? I'll save it for the episode. But I know now he is one reason why he tried to play off that he was a sapiosexual, but then over time I knew he wasn't, because he wasn't that bright. He's not that bright at all. He played it off for a while. But I caught on. Thank you so much for listening to the Handicapable Black Woman Throne Room. I am a woman, I am of color, and I am handicapable. But most importantly, I am human and you're human too.